And as time passed inexorably, the sanctuary became the scene of other extraordinary events, capable of lighting a light of hope in the hearts of those who, for a moment, felt lost. In the heart of the hills surrounding San Lorenzo del Sud, the presence of the Madonna dello Scoglio became increasingly palpable, almost as if the veil between heaven and earth had thinned in that blessed place. One autumn evening, when golden leaves were falling lightly on the dusty paths, a young musician named Leonardo arrived at the sanctuary. Coming from a big city, he brought with him a violin, inherited from his grandfather, and a heart marked by 1,000 uncertainties. Leonardo had come to that place in search of inspiration, eager to rediscover his lost creativity after years of frenetic lives and urban solitude. As he walked along the path that led to the chapel, he was struck by a surreal silence, as if every sound in the world had stopped waiting for a miracle. Entering the chapel, the young man found a group of pilgrims immersed in collective prayer, their voices joining in a sweet and resonant chorus. That night, during the Mass by the flickering light of candles, Leonardo felt a strange vibration in the air, an energy that overwhelmed him like a wave of peace. He later said that he had seen, for a moment, the shadows of the saints dancing on the walls, and that he had heard an ancient, almost forgotten melody coming from the depths of his soul. That moment sealed his destiny. He decided to stay and compose a piece of music inspired by the apparitions and miracles experienced in that place. Meanwhile, the stories of miracles multiplied. One afternoon, an elderly woman, Maria Teresa, came to the sanctuary with the burden of an ancient pain. She had lost her husband many years before, and since then, the memory of her loneliness had become a chain difficult to break. Sitting at the foot of the sacred rock, she prayed with fervent intensity, imploring a sign that could calm her spirit. Suddenly, a thin thread of light wrapped around her hand, as if an invisible presence was holding her in a maternal embrace. From that day on, Maria Teresa said she had found the strength to smile, rediscovering a renewed sense of gratitude in the small everyday things. Even the surrounding landscape seemed to participate in that transformation. The vines and olive trees, which for years had silently witnessed the seasons of life, now seemed to breathe new life. The farmers of the area began to talk about abundant harvests and serene nights, illuminated by a starry sky that seemed to want to tell ancient secrets. In an almost surreal way, nature intertwined with the divine, creating a harmony that made every fiber of the being of those who observed it vibrate. The days passed and the sanctuary became a crossroads of stories and destinies. Brother Cosimo, with his serene face and his innate wisdom, listened to each story with infinite patience. On a cold winter morning, a group of children from the village gathered around him. With his voice trembling with emotion, he told how, when he was young, he had walked along the mountain paths and had met a wise hermit, who had taught him the value of silence and inner listening. That story made the spark of curiosity strike in those eyes full of wonder. The children began to wonder if they too, one day, would be able to touch the mystery of faith with their own hands. One particularly clear night, during a procession under the light of a full moon, an episode occurred that made the rounds of the surrounding villages. As the procession, led by songs and prayers, crossed an ancient stone bridge, a sudden flash illuminated the waters of the stream below. Some said it was the manifestation of a guardian angel, while others claimed it was the reflection of divine grace on nature. That light seemed to pulse to the rhythm of the hearts of those who observed it, bringing with it a message of hope and renewal. The local elders, sitting on wooden benches outside the chapel, exchanged glances full of emotion, aware that the miracle was the tangible confirmation of a higher power. Over the years, the sanctuary was enriched with new stories and testimonies. One case that remained etched in the collective memory was that of Paolo, a man marked by a difficult past. A former prisoner, Paolo had spent many years in prison and, at the end of his sentence, he felt lost, without a goal. One morning, driven by an inexplicable impulse, he decided to go to the Madonna dello Scoglio. As he knelt before the rock, a tear ran down his cheek, and in that moment, the weight of his past seemed to vanish. Over time, Paolo found the strength to rebuild his life, dedicating himself to helping the young people of the village, transmitting to them the value of redemption and second chances. Paolo's words, full of sincere emotion, spread like a beneficial wave, demonstrating that, even in the most wounded hearts, the light of faith could find a home. Meanwhile, the figure of Brother Cosimo continued to be a beacon for those seeking answers. With humility and simplicity, he recounted how the apparitions were not miracles to boast about, but messages of love, an invitation to rediscover the beauty of the soul and the strength of forgiveness. His own life was a living example of resilience. After the trials and suffering, each scar was a symbol of his struggle and his unshakable faith. There were challenges, of course. On occasion, critics and skeptics showed up, eager to question the veracity of these phenomena. But any doubts were dispelled by the testimony of the faithful, the stories of inexplicable healings, and the inner transformation of those who had found a safe haven in the sanctuary. One day, during a local conference, a doctor, initially skeptical, declared that he had never seen anything like it in his career. It is as if science and mystery were intertwined here, offering us an alternative vision of reality. His words, while unable to explain the miracles with medical logic, added to the chorus of voices that, in that place, recognized a superior force. Over the years, the Madonna dello Scoglio became not only a place of prayer, but also of meeting, exchange, and personal growth. During the days of celebration, pilgrims organized banquets, workshops, and moments of sharing, transforming the sanctuary into a true cultural and social center. Local traditions were celebrated with songs, dances, and typical recipes, and even the youngest learned to cultivate the land with the same love that their ancestors had always shown. And then there was the legend of the Night of the Shooting Stars. Every year, on a cold winter evening, the faithful would gather outdoors, where the sky would open up in a breathtaking spectacle. On that occasion, it was said that each shooting star brought with it a wish, a hope to be kept in the heart. The stories of wishes granted accumulated over time, creating an indissoluble bond between the destiny of each individual and the light that had transformed Cosimo's life so many years ago. This synergy between faith, nature, and community meant that, despite the challenges of the modern world, the sanctuary kept its magic intact. The economic and social difficulties of those years were faced with a smile of hope, aware that every prayer, every act of kindness, contributed to a greater plan, that of a universal love that embraced every human being. Thus, while the world around evolved rapidly and often impetuously, the Madonna dello Scoglio remained a fixed point, a safe harbor where one could take refuge and rediscover that part of oneself that, at times, gets lost in the chaos of everyday life. And it is precisely this balance, this encounter between the human and the divine, that makes that place not only a destination for pilgrimage, but a true school of life. At the end of each day, when the sun set behind the hills, leaving orange and pink shades in the sky, Brother Cosimo stopped for a moment in front of the great sandstone rock. In that silence full of emotion, many claim to still feel that sweet and reassuring light, like an embrace that invites you to never give up, to continue to believe in a better tomorrow. And so, while the story of the Madonna dello Scoglio intertwined with the lives of thousands of people, the legacy of that faith, of that light, became the invisible thread that tied together the past, present, and future. And you, dear friend, as you listen to this story, perhaps you find in it a reflection of your hopes or a push to believe that, despite everything, there is always a light ready to guide us. If you also believe in the power of faith, let yourself be carried away by these words and allow the miracle to enter your life, even if only for a moment. Amen.